For those of you who don't know me, my name is Peter Langford. I'm the Director of Voice Projects. A little bit of background to who we are. Our core purpose is improving organisations by giving people a voice. And we've given a voice to over 1 million people across 3,000 organisations, so we're quite proud of the impact that we're having around the world. The primary reason why we're here this morning is because of the Change Challenge Awards that we started up 3 years ago. But we wanted an award that recognised improvements in performance, not just high performers. So in a sense, that's how we see the Change Challenge Awards being quite unique. It's designed to recognise and indeed learn from these changes and very impressive change journeys that organisations have gone through. Without any delay, I'll bring Lynn Warneke up from Deakin University, who, as I mentioned before, as a whole has improved quite substantially, but the digital engagement solutions and platform area was a clear standout when we were evaluating the awards. So hence, Lynn, being director of that area, is coming up to present her story. So thank you, Lynn.
So thank you very much for this opportunity to share the story of my team's journey from silo to synergy. In our case, possibly a little more extreme, maybe not so much from silo to synergy, and maybe it's a bit more of a case of from broken to brilliant in our case. So our story, in sweeping summary, is one of positive but very constant change. We were christened Digital Presence in 2013, and we grew out of the ashes of a legacy web team. Our first unpromising voice project survey results that year indicated that initial regeneration from web to digital was somewhat inauspicious. But in just 3 short years, we've undergone a comprehensive transformation, and our second voice survey results last year were welcome evidence of how far we've come and a motivation to keep improving in coming years as we continue on what will clearly be for us an ongoing change journey. I do think we as humans have an enduring fascination with the narrative of change or makeover, the ugly duckling turning into the swan. We have TV series exploring people's extreme weight loss, extreme plastic surgery, and now extreme tattooing even. And of course there's the much loved architectural versions, my favourite, grand designs, extreme rebuilds, and our homegrown versions of the block and house rules. So today I thought I'd introduce a little known niche in the genre, which is a team makeover of a digital work unit in a tertiary institution. And as with all tried and true journeys, storylines rather than involved journeys, I'm going to share my team makeover story in 3 parts. I'll describe the before state and the drivers for our transformation. During the journey, of course, is when things often go wrong. Hurdles are jumped, crises are averted, hopefully, so I will share some of our experiences, our key obstacles and challenges and how we responded. And finally, we get to the big reveal where we celebrate success and realise the benefits. So why we changed, how we did it and what we achieved is my morning story. And naturally, I'll start at the beginning with the context for our team makeover, or why we had to embark on this journey. So I'll start the context setting with just some brief organisational overview. Deakin is a very large and highly decentralised organisation. We serve over 50,000 students across multiple campuses around Victoria, including one wholly online or digital campus. We have a very complex product landscape, over 400 courses, for example, and a wide range of research focus areas. And in addition to our students, and we have general and academic staff, we also serve a very diverse stakeholder profile. Unfortunately, the wider environment that Deakin's currently operating in is a very challenging one. It's probably not a complete conflagration yet, if I'm honest with you, but a range of disruptive factors are combining to create a burning platform. Our new reality is digital disruption. Education is being impacted, along with most sectors, by profound digital and customer-led disruption. So we have to look at how to preemptively transform from within, lest we be unwillingly forced to transform by external forces outside our control. And today's digital customers, our students, are now in the main fully mobile and digitally savvy. They're hyper-connected, they're hyper-informed. They're being conditioned by the market and also their peer group to engage more online and to expect more of all of their digital experiences, including their experiences of university, both educational attainment and campus life. So in other words, commercial realities and customer imperatives now apply acutely to the education sector in a way they probably haven't previously. And as a backdrop to all of this, the pace, the scale, the sheer variety of technological change is unprecedented. So technology is the key driver of digital disruption, and it's through technology that we are developing entirely new ways to communicate, inform, engage and teach now in a digital dimension. So the successful university of the 21st century will have succeeded with disruptive technologies, because if not, a traditional competitor, or more likely a non-traditional new market entrant, will have stolen the march. So Deakin's strategic response to this burning platform is summed up in two key themes: how we'll go about personalising the student experience through investment in outstanding digital engagement and services, and driving the digital frontier. Simply put, that means quickly leveraging these new disruptive technologies, boldly embracing new opportunities inherent in digital disruption, and transforming ourselves to become the premier digital university in Australia. But that exciting vision demands new skills: human-centred design and user experience, strategic planning and analytical thinking for the digital dimension, a robust innovation methodology and process, and collectively, and above all, an integrated omni-channel digital-first approach. So realising this, nearly 5 years ago, our Chief Digital Officer established what was the digital presence function in 2013 in Deakin eSolutions. And in due course, we acquired the innovation function, and at that time we were renamed Digital Engagement Solutions and Platforms, or DESP. While there's still a lot of traditional information technology in Deakin eSolutions, as you can see on the chart there, under the CDO's leadership, the focus has expanded significantly from traditional IT operations and service delivery. And arguably, my team is the most bleeding edge component of eSolutions' new digital-first and customer-centred paradigm. So into that context, I arrived at Deakin in 2013 into a brand new role, expanding the digital remit and establishing a host of brand new functions. Unfortunately, the existing team that I found awaiting me there was really in no shape to respond and had little ability to lead us at the digital frontier. The team had been moved around several times within the organisation. That hadn't been well handled. They'd been split up, and the part that I acquired was thoroughly demoralised and demotivated. And they'd recently landed in eSolutions, found themselves in an unfamiliar division and culture, not especially welcoming, has to be said. But most importantly, they had good skills for an exclusive web era, but not for a multi-channel new digital era. So I had a huge transformation agenda to work through, a very great deal to remediate, while under some pressure to transform rapidly and deliver brilliantly. So what to do? Well, there's a lot in a name, as the aphorism goes, so much so that I've had two in the 3-year period that we're discussing, and recently we've moved on to a third. But sadly, a name change wasn't going to be enough to respond to all of those disruptive forces and that context of emergent digital needs that I've outlined. We had an urgent need to establish a team capable of making an appropriate contribution quickly and effectively. So nothing less than a substantial team makeover was required. And yes, we needed a big change. And that kind of change meant a shake-up, stepping well out of our comfort zone, which may be the only way to find that place where magic can happen, but it can be scary and it can be painful. All good stories need a little suspense. So that note brings us to the middle part of the journey, where I'll tell you about how we responded to those drivers, and that context I've provided, took ourselves apart and rebuilt from the ground up. So when it comes to organisational change, as of course you know, when you're dealing with people and their working lives, it's a very serious undertaking, of course. So having a solid design and approach and a clear intent are obviously critical. There are literally dozens of change models, probably hundreds. ADCAR is a popular one, you may know. CODA's 8-step change model. They go on, and I've used several. But in this case, I chose this simple 4C model to frame my thinking and steer my approach. And the model recognises that the change is happening not just to the team and for the team, but within a wider organisational context also. So the change needed to take into consideration the eSolutions division and the wider enterprise as a whole to achieve that synergistic outcome. And the 4C activities, of course, are relevant across all of these dimensions. So some of the key activities that I undertook in each of the 4Cs. Clarity, why we're doing this and also when. So a lot of upfront work went into the design of a new organisational model for DESP. A strategic plan, a whole new org structure, new role design, and so on. The implementation plan, at least initially, was largely dictated by Deakin's enterprise agreement, so I'll come back to that shortly. Community is all about the who. Identifying, supporting and enabling those who were involved in driving this change and of course those who this change was impacting. Communication, self-explanatory. I completely agree with Michael on the importance of communication. In our change, this involved planning, delivering and maintaining formal and informal communications across the team, the division and the university. And commitment. What we want to achieve and how we're going about it. Carrying out the plan defined in the clarity phase. In our case, initially, this involved redundancy, redeployment, recruitment and retraining, those big 4 Rs. But over time, the commitment phase seeks to move well beyond compliance and build sustainable engagement and performance. And so we continue to apply here elements of ADCAR and other change models. We continue to communicate iteratively to sustain positive change. So now to obstacles and challenges. There were plenty, 2 particularly acute in the short term. It's one of my lessons learned, drink a lot of good red wine. In the university sector, there is some fairly entrenched change resistance in general, but in the case of my team, as I mentioned, they'd had some pretty unpleasant change inflicted upon them, so I guess it's not surprising that I had to work quite hard initially to overcome hostility and suspicion amongst staff. But further, Deakin operates under an enterprise agreement negotiated with our union in TEU. And in these circumstances, that mandates what's called a major workplace change process. And that is intended to protect and support staff. But in practice, I found the process so prescribed, it was really inhibiting, unnecessarily adversarial at times, and really hard on everyone involved on both sides of that community. So Deakin's first voice project survey was conducted in August of my first year, just after we'd completed that challenging major workplace change process, but before any of the positive change activities had any real chance to bear fruit. So when the leadership team in eSolutions got together to compare results and look for improvement opportunities, unsurprisingly my unit was the worst of all and gave me a baseline that was pretty disheartening. But we got through that. And then over the medium term, the key challenge we faced is probably neatly summed up by Malcolm Turnbull's recent experiment with controversial slogans, change and continuity. And what I mean by that is that our challenge was maintaining adequate pace and volume and quality of delivery in some new capability areas through a very unsettled period of rebuilding a team. Possibly not dissimilar now I think about it to renovating your house and living in throughout. There's a lot of dust. And then one of the big challenges over the long term has been our integration into the wider division and university. My digital team's work is substantially different to core IT. Our offering is very different to traditional IT service offerings. So while there were certainly some areas that responded very well, broadly speaking, across eSolutions and Deakin, response to the new MAKEOVER digital team range from indifference to confusion to, in a couple of exceptional but quite challenging cases, hostility. So it's taken time and some very deliberate planned responses to two key challenges in particular: culture and ownership. I actually think many organisations are facing these twin issues today due to the need to transform from, let's call it an industrial era organisational design that's built on functional silos to a new digital era organisational model that's optimised around the customer. So at Deakin we've come a very long way, and my team is well integrated now, I believe, and although the sort of strategic plans and responses to these challenges have been vital, I ultimately think our success has primarily been due to my team's resilience and effectiveness. So that brings us to the final part of the story. And I hope you're keen for the big reveal, because I'll finish up by running you through just a few metrics and some indicators of our post-makeover benefits and success. So in August last year, Deakin's biennial staff survey was run again, and what a different picture it painted this time. So the Voice project survey scale with the greatest change for my team is entrepreneurship at 66%, and that's fantastic because, as I said, my team's accountable for innovation and R&D at the digital frontier. However, these are the scales that I'm proudest of, because they indicate that staff are generally happy at and with work, they're motivated, they're working exceptionally well as a unified team. This is clearly very important for individual wellbeing, and that's a key driver for me. It's of course important for the organisation also, because a satisfied team is more likely to be a productive team, as study after study confirms. I'm also quite proud of that little indicator down the bottom, that I and my senior managers are more or less getting it right. Please indulge my little self-congratulations that I scored 13% above the university average for senior management and 24% above my leadership peers in the eSolutions division. And I hope you'll forgive me that small boast if I remind you again where I came from. So I have a before and after heat map that speaks for itself now. And this change from majority red and amber to majority green was reflected throughout our survey results, and it was very, very welcome, I can tell you. Just quickly, some hard metrics. Absenteeism, of course, is one indicator of team engagement and motivation. So these were our absenteeism rates in 2013. And over there at 11.67 days of sick leave per year per employee, we well and truly topped out the 2012 Australian average of 8.9 and also the public sector average of 9.2. After the change program, absenteeism has dropped significantly, particularly those average days of sick leave taken per year. So in Australia, the median absence rate in 2015 was 8.6 days per employee per annum, and at 3.71 we're well below that. One of our key productivity metrics is service calls, where staff and students raise service requests or calls for help in relation to the digital platforms that my team supports. So in 2013, about half my team was working on service calls. But by 2015, with half the number of staff working on service calls, we actioned more calls per day. We lowered our service level agreements to well within target, and we reduced our total number of service level agreement breaches by over 65%. And of course, what this productivity gain allowed us to do, most importantly, was focus more staff on other critical innovation and digital work that was identified in our strategic plan. So there have been a number of benefits accruing to eSolutions and Deakin as a result, and these are just the top three. eSolutions now has an internal team providing expert digital advice and capability, particularly in areas of digital strategy, front-end design and development, user experience, and emergent technologies. We've built a best practice online digital centre of excellence where we curate digital tools, techniques, standards, and support upskilling of Deakin in digital capability at scale. And thirdly, reputation building and excellence in delivery. Together with my team, I've delivered multiple strategies, projects, innovation initiatives and products in our 3-year history that have contributed significantly to the university's ability to drive the digital frontier. And many of our achievements are cutting edge, not just within the university sector. We've received widespread industry interest and media coverage for our work in proximity and location-aware services, for augmented reality, virtual reality, and cognitive computing. So, finally, what have been the critical success factors for our journey? At the left are the key success factors I've gleaned from listening to my people. And at the right, I've identified complementary success factors from my leadership and change design perspective. And you'll see there are differences, but the commonalities are what matters. Mutual respect, empowerment, inclusion, and above all, feedback and communication. I very much subscribe to the principle that change happens from the top down, so I'm very conscious of doing my best to be the change that I want to see in my world and to treat my team as I wish to be treated in the workplace. But at the same time, as 1,000 domestic philosophers have noted, there's no I in team. So I'll end with that appalling cliche to make an important point. Yes, I designed and drove a whole of team makeover, and my changes had a whole of team impact, but our success was and continues to be absolutely a whole of team effort, and the credit is due to my team. So we're utterly delighted to have received the Voice Project Change Challenge Award. Thank you to Peter and the team. Thrilled for myself, certainly, but more so because the recognition reflects deservedly on my amazing group of people. So it's been a pleasure sharing our journey from silo to synergy with you this morning, and thank you very much for your time and attention.